I teach writing classes, and I talk. What I see a lot is that people get stuck, and their critical voices and come in and torture them. So what I advise is to keep going, to find a way of responding to those critical voices. We all have them. What I do is when I write in my notebooks, I always write on one side of the page. And if I have, on the other side, I put questions, but I also put like, is this too long? Is this boring? Is this, all my doubts and fears I put on this side of the page. And it's a way of acknowledging them and then to keep going. So that's what I try to encourage my writing students in, to realize that all of that is natural, to, have those thoughts and feelings. We all do, and to put them somewhere, to put them, to acknowledge them and then to keep moving. So I don't, I don't tell people they have to write in a notebook, but that's the process that works for me. The goddess of discord, although everyone thinks that it's like either the goddess of love or the goddess, or that she's going to the. My character Maya Gold is she is a classicist. She's been a writer, but she also works at, her father was a classics professor, and she works at a little college museum. And when she was just out of college, she had gone and been invited to one of these great writing retreats, run by a millionaire, or billionaire probably, on a Greek island. And um, she goes there when she's young. But we see her about 15 years later getting an invitation to go back there. So it's sort of the classic, an invitation arrives, and it's, he's Argos, he's gathering all these people together who were once there at this retreat, and she has mixed feelings. She doesn't want to go, but she ultimately is drawn in to go back to this island. And she ends up there with a few writers, that some of whom she knows and some of whom are new to her. And not to give too much away, um, people die, and so there's a murder, and then you can't get off the island. The one boat is gone. So it's that, you know, thank you, Agatha Christie. People stranded on an island, and they also all happen to be writers. So it was an opportunity, and this was one of the fun things about writing about writers, was to write about people who are different kind of writers than I am. So, there's the Bill the chef is a cozy writer, which gave me, I've always wanted to write a cozy. I love cozies. So I got to name all of his books. And then there is the romance, kind of writes more romantic mystery fiction. So I got to write about her. And then there's the, more literary writer. Her friend Annika is kind of her frenemy who's there, and she had written sort of a rival book to Maya's years ago. Oh, and then Ian, who was a love interest 15 years ago, he had written a more literary book, but his father writes a mystery classic series. And that was inspired really by, I think it's Stephen Saylor who wrote the sort of the Rome book set in historical mystery set in Rome. So I got to, that one is a series with Pythagoras as the detective. So I made up an entire series, Detective Pythagoras, which was inspired by the fact that my husband writes poetry about Pythagoras. So it was great. It's like I love the idea of making up fictional books, that the books that you didn't get to write. So that was great fun doing that, and there was lots of that in this book. Well, it was fun to sort of come up with different ways to kill people off, to to put it very simply, and to play with the geography of the island, and all the potential, places, hidden places that you could have. So again, like the clue, so you have like secret passages, and here it's because it's a Greek island, you can have ruins. There's a cave, an underwater cave where they that they can have to swim to, and then to have all these relics and statues. So to bring in all of that, again, I was a classics major, so to bring in all that mythology and that lore was really fun. So I think just really playing with, this was a book where I drew maps, and invented all sorts of passages and sort of archaeological layers of the island, so that we could have the modern tragedy could play out in this sort of classic setting. Well, I wish I had sort of a more calculated way of doing it. Very often for me, it's just me following the trail of like, could it be this person? So as I go with my detective character, coming up with a hypothesis, and I work through that with them until generally then they get killed. That person gets killed off, and you're like, no, it wasn't them. I think too, when you're playing with, when you've got a book that has a very obvious tribute to an Agatha Christie, a Golden Age kind of book, and people are referencing it within the book, it gives you that opportunity to, nod to those tropes so that you can have this kind of classic investigation. Um, and so usually I am working through, I can't remember if I knew who the killer was in this one or not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I will kind of, follow the investigation along with my central character. I feel like they're taking me through it. And, sometimes who I thought did it becomes too obvious. And so then I have to veer off and do some, and decide, nope, that wasn't it. That was, all the red herrings that, or all the clues that I thought to the actual killer then become red herrings. And I find you can really, it's, people think that mysteries need to be outlined more because they need a lot of rewriting is what they do need if you're a pantser like me. But I find them actually a really good structure um, for pantsing it through the novel, because you are the investigator, you, the author, are following these clues through it, and your narrator can do that as well.